See, I was just a teen when I was first introduced into the Kingdom Hearts series. My very first game was Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, the combat in 2 just drew me in, and I only played Kingdom Hearts 1 after finishing the second. So I was the one feeling personally attached to Roxas, and didn't even feel a little joy when I was forced to switch to Sora. Since playing those 2 magical titles, I fell off with the series after that point. The monumental wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 didn't do it any favors for keeping me engaged, and with every Kingdom Hearts title since 2 being released on some sort of portable device, my love for the series fell by the wayside. Now, when I picked up Kingdom Hearts 3 practically 14 years after originally playing KH2, I was still invested in the story. Sure, my love for the series wasn't where it used to be, but I was excited to see how the story of Sora, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua would unfold. I had no idea that it would turn into the Roxas, Xion, Axel redemption arc, whose stories I thought were wonderfully capped off within KH2, but hey, if you want to see my thoughts on KH3 and how the story really went off the rails there, go watch this video I uploaded near the beginning of my channel. It may be one of my older videos, but everything I said there still applies today. Okay. With that being said though, let me give a really quick rundown on why I thought KH3 was bad. First of all, being in development for 14-ish years, that's always a red flag for a video game. Then again, with Tetsuya Nomura at the helm, it's a miracle he didn't turn Kingdom Hearts into Kingdom Hearts the Musical. That's not to mention the changes to the combat, which I was not a fan of. Nor did I like where the story turned, especially considering that they had been building the story up for literal decades, and for it to end the way it did was straight up disappointing. The Disney worlds were weak as hell in comparison to previous games, with Sora feeling like he was put into these worlds as a complete afterthought, rather than being a real part of each and every one of them.
I think I made the perfect analogy for this in my previous video, so just take a listen.
I mean, just notice how Sora's just kind of there. He doesn't really feel like he belongs in the worlds at all in this game, and half the time it's almost like he's that annoying friend you don't have the heart to tell to go away, so he just tags along.
Again, I could go on, but for these reasons and more, I stopped being interested in Kingdom Hearts. Still though, at least you could still call Kingdom Hearts 3 a Kingdom Hearts game. A weak one, but still Kingdom Hearts nonetheless. If you enjoyed KH1 and KH2, there were still things to enjoy about KH3. The charming cartoony style is still there, with Sora's appearance changing based on what world he's in. You've still got your classic Disney characters in their classic Disney worlds, going about their lives with Sora and crew getting an inside look. The foundation is there at least. Now, with this trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, honestly, what in the hell is this? Sora looks like a TikTok e-boy now. What's going on here? Where are his comically large shoes? That shit was a trademark of his design, and in all seriousness, it was charming as hell. It really fit in with the aesthetic of Kingdom Hearts. This was a cartoony video game, one that was mainly goofy in nature. But with serious undertones sprinkled throughout. Now with KH4, it feels like Kingdom Hearts has completely lost its identity and traded it out for some soulless, bland, generic, drab Final Fantasy XVII-esque aesthetic. Scripted gameplay with a UI over it? Check. Random characters speaking absolute nonsense to try and make it look at least like this game still has some semblance of a story in mind? Check. Sora looking like he could pull out his iPhone at any moment and start doing the Renegade? Check. Like, guys, come on. You want to know what my first thoughts were with this trailer? I immediately thought, I've seen this all before. Remember the Final Fantasy XV reveal? This feels exactly like that. And what did we find out about that trailer later on? The gameplay within it was completely CGI, and I freaking hate how Nomura always loves to throw a UI over these clearly scripted sequences to try and pass it off as gameplay. I'm sick and tired of it. I understand he wants to make the game he never got to make, that being Final Fantasy XIII Versus, I get that. But the dude clearly does not know how to execute that idea within the confines of a video game. Else, he would have done it several years ago. Hell, I'm concerned as to whether he can even pull off something that isn't a convoluted mess. Anyone want to talk about Final Fantasy Origin? Now, I really can't speak too much about it, as I wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot pole. But I think this cutscene speaks for itself.
Bullshit.
Hey, at least the gameplay looks solid. If it's one thing Nomura knows how to do, it's action combat. I'll give him that. I enjoyed the combat within 7 Remake, I enjoyed the combat within Kingdom Hearts, and even the combat within Origin looks satisfying enough. But one thing I will never trust him with is a game's story. Origin's story looks like utter garbage. Kingdom Hearts' story is utter trailer trash.
I'm confused. Did he say he made a copy of the real world?
Only one of the worlds is real, and the other is just really convincing.
You can't be serious.
And let's be honest, so is Final Fantasy VII Remakes. Maybe I'm overreacting to this and the trailer just takes place during one section of the game where Sora's in the real world, but for some reason, I just have a feeling that Disney Worlds will not be the main focus here, and the majority of the game's storyline will take place within this dreary, bland real world that Nomura seems to be so fond of nowadays. You could make the argument that the Disney Worlds were always just a sideshow to the main story, but I would absolutely disagree. The main story was always the sideshow for me as a kid. The Disney Worlds were always what I was there for, helping Simba out with any trouble that might be brewing within Pride Rock, or helping Mulan and Mushu against the Huns. It was never about whatever this is. Both Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy were always about being just that, fantasies. These wildly creative worlds with cartoony characters that are meant to whisk you away and forget about all your real-world problems, not bring you back to them. I don't want to think about my car insurance payment when I see a big Heartless throw a real-life car towards Sora, okay? Just look at one of the worlds back in KH2. So wildly colorful and stylistic with so much soul, you can really feel the care that was put into lovingly crafting these Disney worlds. And to see them become less and less of a focus is a real shame. Back when I first experienced these games, I always wanted them to focus less on the Disney side of things and go more heavily toward Final Fantasy, as I only really got into Kingdom Hearts in the first place because of my love for Final Fantasy. But seeing what Final Fantasy has become,
Chaos.
and what Kingdom Hearts 4 seems like it's going to turn into, I can't help but think about how wrong my younger self was. Seeing Donald and Goofy at the end of the trailer was a reminder of those better, simpler times. I just wish more of the trailer was able to evoke those same feelings, rather than the literal last 5 seconds of it. And if that isn't a telltale sign of the direction this game is headed, I don't know what is. With that being said, only time will tell if Kingdom Hearts 4 becomes Kingdom Farts 4. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, or that's the nickname I'm using for Kingdom Hearts forever.